Well, hi everyone. Thank you very much for coming to our session. We're really excited to be talking to you today. My name is Rosário Fernandes. I'm a developer relations engineer on the Firebase team.
And I am Marina, and I'm also a developer relations engineer on the Firebase team.
So today we'll be talking about some of our products for releasing and monitoring an app. And we want to address some of the common problems that developers usually face when they release their app. So I would like you guys to raise your hand if you feel like you've faced this problem before. Have you had users complaining about a crash that you can't reproduce? Right. So how about when your customers are complaining about performance, but you don't really see it on your test devices? Oh. And finally, there's that specific crash that happens on that specific brand, but not on any other device. All right. Great. So if you raised your hand at least once, that means you came to the right session. If you didn't raise your hand, that's fine. It means you'll probably won't face this in the future. So in this session, we'll be starting by getting a quick overview of what Firebase is, followed by a look at Test Lab, which is a tool that helps you test your app on a variety of virtual and physical devices, followed by then a look at Crashlytics to help you track and fix your crashes. And then the third tool that we'll have a look at is called performance monitoring to, well, as the name says it, monitor the performance of your app. And then finally, we'll be looking at app distribution to see how you can distribute your app to your beta testers. So I will now pass it to Marina, who is going to give us an overview.
OK, so before we talk about the 4 products that we are going to cover today, I would like to first give an overview of what is Firebase. So Firebase is a lot of things, but mainly it's about 20 products that help you, developer, to go through all the life cycle of developing an application. So first, of course, we need to build, so how we can see here. And these are the products that we offer to help you build your application. So we offer some cloud services, some databases, authentication services. And then after you build your app, you want to release it to production, and you want to keep monitoring what your app is like on the user's hands. And then we have these 4 products that help you improve the app quality. And these are the 4 products that we are going to cover today. And after you release and you keep monitoring your app, you probably want to grow it, so you get new users, and you also keep track and maintain, you retain the users that you already have. So these are the products that help drive user engagement. So what is a Firebase project? A Firebase project is an instance that you have inside Firebase that is where you configure all the Firebase products and services for one application. And inside a Firebase project, we can have different kinds of apps. So we can have iOS apps, we can have Android apps, which is what we are going to cover here, of course. We can have, sorry, completely forgot to do that. So we also have support for web apps. We support Unity, so you can create your Unity apps there, and it will automatically create the iOS and Android versions for that Unity app. And also, we recently added support for Flutter. So you can have all these apps, if they are from the same business use case, inside the same Firebase project. And then once you configure the products that we are going to talk about, these configurations will apply to all apps inside a project, which is way faster than having to configure it individually. So in our case, as I said, we are going to configure an Android project. So this is the Firebase console when you create a project. And we are going to use this little circle button to create the Android project. And we are going to see the screen. So the first thing that we need to add is the package name, because this is how the Firebase project will connect to your application. And this is the only information that is mandatory on this screen. You can, of course, add a nickname. That's how your app is going to be shown in the console. And you can also add the debug signing certificate, but it's not mandatory. So, well, the shortest way is just you can add your package name and then download the Google Service JSON file, which is the file that does all the configuration for you and connects your app to the Firebase project. After you download and put it in your app, you just add all the dependencies to your build Gradle files, and then you're ready to use some Firebase projects. And now I'm going to pass back to Rosario, who's going to cover TestLab.
So TestLab is basically a tool that lets you test your app on a variety of physical and virtual devices. There's not really much magic here. We actually went ahead and built a data center full of devices that you can test your app on. Just picture a room full of shelves, and those shelves, they have like physical devices. So with TestLab, you can find issues that occur on specific device configurations. So before you run a test, you can actually specify which configurations you want to test on, and then the test will run on those configurations. And after the test runs, you'll be able to get some results that will show you crashes, freezes, warnings, any accessibility issues, and policy violations, and things like that. And all tests come with screenshots, videos, and logs of your app. So let's have a look at that. So in order to get started with TestLab, you need to go to the Firebase console. You select the TestLab on the left side menu, and you'll see a screen that looks like this. And it prompts you to upload an APK or an Android app bundle file to run a test. Once you upload it, it's going to run a quick test on a pre-selected device. So in this case, it chose Pixel 5e. And you're going to have to wait for a while until it finishes running. And once it's done, it's going to look something like this. And then you can click on it to get more details. As you can see in this example, like I said, it shows you logs, screenshots, and videos. So here, there's a video of it, but what I really want to show you is the screenshots. So I ran this test, I got the video for it, and I got the screenshots for it. But looking at the screenshots, I can see that when the test was run, the robot was only able to type some data into my login form, but then he couldn't sign in, and the test finished without anything useful going on in there. So how do we fix it? In order to fix it, we can create what is called RoboScripts, which is basically a JSON file that will tell the robot what steps to take and what inputs to actually send to the app so that we can actually go further than just the login screen. And in order to create a robot test, you can do it through Android Studio. So you can go up to the Tools menu, select Firebase, and this will open up the Firebase assistant on the right side. And then from there, you can select TestLab, and you'll see the option to record RoboScript. You click on it, your app will run on a device of your choice, depending on your run configurations. So it can either be on the emulator, or you can run on your physical device. And from there, you can start interacting with your app, and Android Studio will actually capture that and store all your interactions in a JSON file. And then you take this JSON file to the Firebase console and upload it together with your APK. So you place both of them in there, click on Continue, and it will ask you which devices you want to test on. And for some of those devices, you can actually configure the way you want the device to behave. So once you select all of your devices, once again, the test will run, and you'll be able to see the screenshots of this test, and you'll see that the robot will now follow all the same steps that you followed when you were creating your test script. So what else can you do with TestLab? We also provide some other APIs to help you maybe improve your development lifecycle. So for example, you could integrate TestLab into your continuous integration system. You can do that through our REST API or even the gCloud CLI. And you can also use Cloud Functions to extend your test lab usage. So you can, for example, trigger an event when a test completes. So you could maybe send a Slack notification or even send an email once a test completes. So I'm going to pass it back to Marina.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to cover Crashlytics, which I had a good time talking about this product with many of you in the hall. And I'm very excited to talk about it because it was the first product that I tried myself on Firebase. And it's basically a crash reporter that helps you tracking, prioritizing, and fixing issues. And we know that users are very annoyed, who wouldn't be, by issues. So we want to avoid them. And if we can avoid, we want to find out as soon as possible to fix that as soon as possible. So it groups crashes based on some similarities between them, so it's easier and faster for you to track on the dashboard, which we are going to see in a minute. And you can also set up velocity alerts that lets you know, so you configure a threshold and it alerts you whenever an issue passes that threshold, meaning that many user sessions had that. So you can always be aware of when something very hard is happening on the user's end. And now it's also available on Android Studio, only the electric EU version, and I also had some great feedback from you on that. And it's easier because you don't need to switch between browser and Android Studio. You can just see the stack trace right there, click on the links, and then navigate to the files where the errors happen in each step of the stack trace, which makes it very faster. So to add it, once you have the Firebase project, to add it to your project, something happened? I think it disconnected. Yep. Sorry, just 1 minute.
Right.
Okay, we're back. I think I need to put the cursor there so I can pass.
There. Try.
Done? Yep. So in order to add it to our project, we need to put the plugin to the app build Gradle file like this, and then add the dependencies. And we also needed to add it to the project level build Gradle file. And then once we compile the app again, it's already tracking all the crashes. And for all the crashes that we collect and send to the dashboard, we can see a series of information there. So we can see the crash-free statistics. We can filter this, not only the statistics, but also the list of issues. We can check, of course, the stack trace for each occurrence of that specific issue. And we can get detailed data from each crash, which can help us understand what was the user journey. And to help us with that, we also can add custom keys and logs. So custom keys are basically pairs of keys and values that you add to your crash reports that may help you understand what the user was doing that led them to that specific moment of the crash. You can also log some things that help you understand the journey, and you can, based on that keyword that you just added, you can search and filter these issues easily on the dashboard. So that's how you add a custom key. So let's say you are facing a problem, a crash on a screen, and you are suspecting that it might be related to how the user locale behaves, because we know that, for example, in some places of the world, we read the screen from left to right, and in some other places, we read it from right to left. So you want to know what is the locale of the user as soon as the app starts. So that's how you would do it by adding a custom key. You just would probably get the first method that's called. In this case, it's an app that I did. I just used the init block on a view model, the first view model that is created, and then I'm logging the custom key telling me which is the locale that the user has on that application. And to add the log is even easier. You don't need to set up a key, because logs are like, I don't have a pair of key and value. I just want to log it. I just want to know that the user did this, and this is the journey that it's being done in my app. So that's how you add it. Another very important thing is to measure non-fatal errors, because sometimes some errors happen and you don't want that error to cause a crash. You probably don't want that. And, but you want to be aware that that happened, because it shouldn't be. So this is why non-fatal errors exist. And this is how you can add it to your app. So here what I'm doing is I'm using a coroutine exception handler, which basically acts like a catch block inside a coroutine. And then I'm calling the view model scope in a launch block, and I'm trying to authenticate. It's just a basic signing method, passing the email and the password. And then I'm attaching to this launch my coroutine exception handler. And whenever a crash happens, sorry, not a crash, the crash isn't supposed to happen, but whenever an exception is thrown in that block, I will catch it inside the coroutine exception block, and I will log it to Firebase. So I will know that this error happened in the user's hands. The user wants. Well, probably you're going to show a message or something in this case saying, well, you couldn't log in for some reason, but it won't crash. So now let's take a look how all of this is organized into the Crashlytics dashboard. So this is one example of how a Crashlytics dashboard looks like. And here is where you can select which app you're looking at in the moment. So we are in a project here called Bingo Blast, and I'm selecting the Android application. But if you had iOS and web versions on that same project, this is where you could switch between one and the other. And then we have some kind of filters. The first one, you can filter by the version of the application. You can also filter by the event type, so the non-fatal error that we were just talking about. This is where you would filter to only check them, or to check crashes, or to check application not responding errors. And this is where you can filter by a period of time. So like, I just want to know what happened on the weekend that I wasn't here. So this is where you would get the statistics for only that period of time. And then after you add the period of time and the filters, this is where you get the crash fill rate for that specific configuration that you just did. And this, you can like put your cursor over it, and then you can see specifically for each day how many crashes you have, how many non-fatals you have, and how many ANRs you had. This is just the place where you can filter by keywords. And then we have another type of filters. So here's something very important. These filters are not related to the other filters. The filter that we just talked about, it is for filtering the statistics. This filter here is to filter the list of issues that's going to be shown on the dashboard. So the first thing, we can filter between open and closed issues. And we can also filter by these labels that we see here. So the first one, early, it means it happened very early on the application lifecycle. So probably the user just opened the app and it crashed. The second one, it's a fresh issue. It never happened before. The second one is regressed. You fixed it, or you thought you did, and then it came back. And then the last one is a repetitive. So like, you might want to pay attention to this one because it's happening a lot. So you can also filter by device types and operation systems. And then once you filter and you click on an issue, this is the screen that you're going to see. So you can also filter the statistics using the same filters that we just talked about. And then this is where you see the statistics. You can see how many fatal or no-fatal events happened and how many users were affected by that. And this, you have a little summary of the type of devices where the crash is happening more often, the operation systems, the version of the operating system that's happening more often, and also if it was on background, how many percentage was in background and in foreground when it happened. These arrows allow you to go back and forward in all the occurrences of that specific issue and checking the details of each occurrence. And this is where you see the stack trace. So we have 4 tabs here. The first one just shows you the stack trace. The second one would be where you would check the custom keys and logs that you would add, as we saw before. The last one is the one that I personally find very useful, not that the other ones aren't, but this one displays a lot of data that may help you understand. So you can check a few things about the device, like the brand, the model, the orientation, because maybe when the orientation changes and the life cycle acts on it, you get a crash, so that might be a very helpful thing to do. Maybe it's related to how many free space you have on the device. And then you have some information about the operating system and the crash as well, like the date and exact moment in time it happened and the app version. And now I'm going to pass back to Rosario for performance monitoring.
All right, topic of the day, performance. I feel like there's been lots of performance talks today. So by a show of hands, how many of you have already attended a performance talk today? All right, it's like half of the room. I don't even need to talk about this. I'm kidding. So performance monitoring allows you to measure the performance of your app, and it can help you monitor things like network activity. So any network request that you're making on your app can actually measure it and check the payload size of your request, the success rate, and how long it takes for you to get a response. You can also instrument specific parts of your app to find out the duration of an action. You can measure the screen rendering performance, and all of these metrics that you're collecting, they'll be displayed along with insights on the Firebase console. And if you need to, you can actually set up alerts for you to be notified whenever you see some performance issues coming to like getting some outrageous numbers on the console. So getting started with the performance SDK is pretty similar to Crashlytics. You add the Firebase performance monitoring Gradle plugin, and you also add the dependencies. And yep, you also apply the plugin on your build.gradle file. And just by doing that, you'll already be the app will already be reporting some metrics to the Firebase console. So things like app startup time, foreground and background duration. So that means how much time your app is spending on the foreground, how much time is it spending on the background. You'll get some information regarding screen rendering, so things like slow rendering frames and frozen frames. And like I said, also the HTTP requests. So it's going to automatically try and collect requests coming from the OK HTTP3 library, which is quite a popular one, and also the Java HTTP URL connection class, which I doubt anyone still uses that. I mean, we have retrofit and all these cool libraries. So the good news is that those automatically collected metrics can actually be disabled. So you can, for example, disable them during compile time for a specific build variant. Let's say maybe you don't want to collect metrics for your debug version, and you can do that by changing your build.gradle file and adding this flag that says instrumentation enabled false. Or you can even disable for all your variants if that's what you prefer, and you do that by adding a flag to your gradle.properties file, setting it to false, or even during runtime if you want to check on some condition before disabling the automatically collected metrics. So if you do go ahead and disable it, how can you actually collect any metrics? You can do that using our SDK. So you can call firebase.performance.newTrace and then give it a name. And from there, you can either use the Lambda function to write all the code that you want to trace, or if you prefer, you can call our start and stop methods to point out where you want to start tracing and when do you want to stop tracing. You can also use custom metrics. So if you're tracing a certain part of your app and you want to keep track of some metric, you can actually use the increment metric method that we provide on the SDK, and you give it a name, and then you increment it by a certain number, and those numbers will show up on the console. Finally, you can add attributes. So in case you want to make it easier for you to identify where is this performance trace coming from, You can use the put attribute method in order to add some custom attributes that you can later use to filter on the Firebase console. So let's see how those things look on the console. So if you go to the Firebase console, you click on the Performance tab, you'll find a screen that looks like this. It's basically a graph showing you how your app has been performing, and you get some stats in there. And if you click on that button that says View Metric Details, you can get more details into it. So you can see some insights of it, and also you can filter by app version, by device, by country, or even OS API level, so that you can get better insights on how each version of your app is performing. So going back to the previous screen, if we scroll down, we'll see the network requests that are being automatically collected, and you'll see some stats for it. And then if you click on the next tab, which is Custom Traces, if you click on Custom Traces, you'll be able to see any other custom trace that you have created. And the final tab would be the screen rendering one, where you get some stats about the time it takes to render some screens of your app. So I'll pass it back to Marina.
And the last product of today, we are going to talk about app distribution. So this is a product that Firebase offers that aims to help you distributing your apps to testers and in an easy and quick way. So you can organize all your testing teams into groups, which makes it faster than just distributing like for each one of them. And you can add new testers with email invitations too, so they can submit their own emails and you don't have to like add it manually. And you can see the status of each tester. So you can see, as we are going to see in a moment in the dashboard, who already accepted the invitation, who already downloaded it, who already installed it. So this gives you more control over the whole process of testing your application. So first, we are going to cover, because, well, even though app bundles are very popular and I think most of the apps use these right now, we still support APK because we know there are still people who use APK. So first, we are going to cover how the APK flow is, and then we are going to talk about how you can link with the Play Store to use app bundles. So for APKs, you would just generate your APK, the one that you would like your testers to test, and you will upload or drag and drop it right here. And this is the screen that you're going to see. So first, you add the testers that you want to test that version of your app, either manually or by selecting a group. And then you can add some release notes, which is completely optional, but it's good practice because this is how your testers are going to know what they should focus on. Even though you want them probably to test the whole application, it's very useful to tell them which new features you might have implemented, which bugs you fixed. And, well, we have 3 tabs up there. First one is the releases that I just showed you. The second one is testers and groups. So this is where you would create the group by clicking the Add Group button, and then you can give this group a name and add all the testers to it. And the last tab is the Invite Links one. So when you click the new invite link, this is the screen that you see. So you can first configure to which group the new testers will be automatically enrolled when they sign up to be a tester. You can leave it blank if you want, like I just want to allow people to sign up to be a tester of my application, but I don't want them to be a part of a specific group. The second configuration, which is also optional, you can make a domain restriction, which means that only people who submit an email with that specific domain will be able to actually enroll into your app testing cycle. Then once you click this, once you click to create the link, this is the screen that you're going to see, which will show you whether you configured any group or domain restriction, and then you'll be able to click on the copy link and have the invitation link to send to everyone you would like to join your testing process. Once you do it, and you go back to the Releases tab, to all the versions that you uploaded, you will be able to see the new users that enrolled and decide whether you want to resend the link to install on a specific version of the apps. That might be useful because that user, he signed up for being a tester, but they still don't have the link for that specific version that you want them to test, so you can just resend the invitation to them. And this is where you keep control of who is testing your application. So you can see who accepted the invitation and who already downloaded it to test. And as I promised, there is an easy way to do it with app bundles, which is it requires you to sign into your Play Store account and just link with your Firebase project. But it makes it a little easier in the beginning because you just select your app from the track on the Play Store that you want to be tested, and all the rest of the process is just the same. It's just you select the app, you select the testers, and you click to send them the email inviting them. And that email also has all the step-by-step, so you make sure that you don't need to explain to each tester what they need to do. The email just covers everything for you. So we are not going to cover, because of the time, specifically how to log into your Play Store account and do this, but we have some very useful code labs on the codelabs.developers.google.com. And here you can find 2 code labs about app distribution, one of them telling you how to link with the Play Store and use app bundles. The other one is about how to alert testers whenever there's a new version. So I am a tester that signed up for your testing process, and I want to be aware whenever there's a new version. So there's a code lab that teaches you how to actually display a dialog to that tester when they open the app saying, hey, there's a new version that you can test. So those are very great code labs, but we do not have only code labs for app distribution. We have code labs for almost all the Firebase products. So if you're interested on one of those other products that we showed to you in the beginning for either building or monitoring or growing your application, this is where you can find it.
So something else I didn't cover was more details into RoboScripts. But we did just launch a new documentation page where you can get more details about that. So you can definitely, and you should definitely check it out if you're interested. And also for any of the other products that we've shown today, you can also check out the documentation and learn more. And just as a way of wrapping up, I just want to let you know that most of these products are available at no cost. And for the ones that do have limits, in this case, Firebase Test Lab, you only pay for what you use. If you still have questions, we are still at DroidCon Berlin, so come to our Google booth outside. You can ask questions, you can share feedback if you're already using any of those products. And if you're having a hard time finding us, just look for our yellow t-shirts. So that's all for today. Thank you.